Well, hello, Valerie Jackson. How are you today?
I am great. I am doing very much awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I had a chance to share your story, but I want everyone to hear you. And I want you to start with that unforgettable moment. You flushed the toilet and saw parasites. What was going through your mind in that moment, and how did you connect it to the healing you'd been praying for?
Start with what I saw in the toilet, right?
Let them know what you saw.
Okay. So I was doing the 21-day class, and on the 10th day, I went to use the bathroom and I used it. And when I got up, you look back to see what's in the toilet, there wasn't nothing there. I'm like, what? Wait, what the what? What the what is I know something had just came out of me, but I didn't see anything in the toilet. So I'm looking around the toilet and I look toward the front of the toilet. And when I looked toward the front of the toilet, it was a mass, like a mass like about that big sitting in the front of the toilet. And it was like little brown BBs and like little eggs and some moving, it was different colors and moving. And I'm like, what the what? So I'd never been that close to the toilet in my life, but my face was in there looking. And so I went and grabbed my phone and got to looking. It was parasites. That blockage, that big blockage like that was parasites. Oh my God.
But now take us back to 2019. You walked into the hospital for a simple colonoscopy and left with a life-altering diagnosis. So how did you process the news about the colostomy bag, and what made you hesitate?
Well, when I walked through the hospital in 2019, I was going to get a checkup because I hadn't had one in so long because I had been taking care of my mom and she passed. So you don't take care of yourself when you're taking care of other people. So after that, I went to get a colonoscopy. I mean, a colonoscopy. Yeah, I went to get that. So while I'm doing that, they show it to you on the screen and they say, wait, we see a blockage. I'm like, what you mean a blockage? And they say, look at this here. And they showed me up on the screen, it was a blockage about that big in my intestines. And I'm like, so what do that mean? And he was like, well, that means we got to do surgery and put you on a colostomy bag. A colostomy bag. And he didn't say how long I was going to be on that colostomy bag. So he was like, you don't be having any bleeding? I'm like, no. He said, you don't be having any pain? I'm like, no. He said, how do your poop look when it come out? How do is it real little, big, whatever? I'm like, normal size, big, sometimes big and sometimes small. He was like, I just don't understand it. With this looking like this, I don't understand why you're not having any problems. That right there sent something through me like, wait a minute, wait a minute. And so I was just putting it off at that time. Because that was some shocking news to hear. They want to cut your intestines open and put you on a coloscopy bag and they don't know how long. Do you know how life changing that is? That is something to think about. So I was putting it off and putting it off.
So you lost your son and your husband in a short period of time. How did those tragedies, shape your approach to healing and fuel your purpose? So take us back and just kind of let them know you had your diagnosis, and then all of a sudden, these tragedies.
Right. Well, the first of all, the diagnosis, I wasn't really paying any attention because he wasn't saying, I wasn't seeing me having any of these problems that he was talking about. But my son, he's a truck driver. He said, Mom, I take off and take care of you. Have that surgery. That's your life, have it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay, I have it. So as we were setting up to have it, things continued to happen that stopped that surgery. I mean, it happened 3 times. And it wasn't number God. That's all I can say. It was God because if I had had that surgery, my son, 2 months, a month or two after I was diagnosed for the surgery, he was diagnosed with cancer. If I had had that surgery the months before that, I would not have been there for my son going through his cancer. And when we found out, he died 3 months later. That's how fast he gone. He left here. With all that being said, I still, I really wasn't trying to have no surgery then. I was like, you ain't gonna cut on me. I ain't got nobody here for me and woo woo woo. But anyway, um, that's how I felt after my son passed. And I would just like to share with something about my son. When he was going through his cancer in 2019, when Akana opened, Commissioner Patricia Horton was with Akana at the time. I was not. With Wakana at the time, I was not, but she was bringing the gummies from Wakana to the hospital. And when I tell you that was helping him with his pain and easing him with rest, it was helping him so much, so much. So yes, he passed. And before he passed, I that was my why to join Wakana was my son and the way that the CBD helped his body, helped relieve the pain. That was my why for joining Wakana.
Wow. And then all of a sudden in 2021, I believe, you then kind of like everything came 360. You were able to come to our office, and I believe you met Dr. Prince. And
Yeah.
so tell me, what was it like going through the process and talking with Dr. Prince, hearing about what he said, and then a little bit about that journey?
Yes, I met Dr. Prince when he first came in to see you, Melissa. We was working the We Cafe at that time. It was on a Sunday. Him and Sharon and their son came in, and he was telling us everything. But then he came up to see you. But he introduced something so special to all our lives. When he did my bioscan, he said, Valerie, you have serious intestine problems. And I'm looking at him. He said, well, he asked me why I look like that. I said, because they want to do surgery on me. He said, what you mean surgery? I said, they say I have a blockage. And he said, do me a favor. Do the 21-day cleanse first before you submit yourself to getting cut on and put on a colostomy bag. He said, do that first and then see where that takes you after that. So that's what I did. I did the 21-day cleanse first.
Wow. And so during that cleanse, I believe it was day 10, where it connects back to how we opened up the interview. On day 10, you then see this blockage and you assume it's the blockage, but something comes out of you that's pretty severe. And that's an aha moment, I'm sure, for you.
Yeah, like I said before, when I used the bathroom, something came out of me. I couldn't find it in the toilet till I looked to the front of the toilet. It was like stuck in the front, and it was a mass. I didn't understand what that was. I didn't know what it was until I looked it up, and it was parasites. It was from the parasite mucus buster powder that we incorporate in our juice. And that was like, oh my God, what is that? But I never put that with the blockage that was inside of me. I never thought that's what that was. So I got so much energy. Once that came out of me, man, I was full of energy. It was like something unlocked in me. And I was just full of energy.
Wow. So
To
you're high energy now.
Yeah.
You continue. So you finish the 21 days, right? You go through the
Yes. Mm-hmm.
after the 21 days, you go back to the doctor, the hospital, and you demand a recheck. So kind of talk about that process.
So they have been contacting me all the time, and I was ignoring them all the time. They was contacting. So after my 21 days, 30 days was up, and they contacted me. I was like, okay, I'm coming in. Let's see about this surgery. Woo, woo, woo. And I said, can you give me another colonoscopy? They what you mean? I said, let's make sure it's still there. What you want to cut me on. So when they laid me on that table and they did that colonoscopy, when they did that colonoscopy, I started crying, praising God, hallelujah. And they was looking at me like, what is wrong with you? I said, do you see it's clear? I said, "There's nothing there." I said, "That big mass that was there is no longer there." I said, "You wanted to cut me open and you wanted to put me on a colostomy bag. That was going to end that would have ruined my life forever to me, because to be on a colostomy bag." And he was like, what did you do? What did you do?" And I told him about the flat belly cleanse. It was two nurses in there. They're still my customers. So they went and got the flat belly cleanse and they did it themselves. They said they would like to offer it to the people that's coming in for the colonoscopy, because they feel that the cleanse that they done from us is much better than the colonoscopy one that they prepare you for your colonoscopy.
Mm. Wow. And so you did the flat belly, which is now we call it the full body reset. And so you have these results. Now the nurses purchase the product because they
Yes.
want
Yeah.
you. And so what would you say to someone who's quietly suffering, with maybe they're feeling symptoms, fatigue, bloating, maybe they've had a similar diagnosis, they're fearing problems with their health, but they're unsure, or maybe they don't know if they really want to commit to a reset. We know this is something that technically resets your body. It was able to eliminate that blockage. So what would you say to that person?
I would say the flat belly lifestyle saved my life, and it changed my life. It saved my life for the fact that I didn't have to be cut on and put on a colostomy bag. And it changed my life because it changed my ideal of eating, my focus of eating to my blood type. Since I started eating to my blood type, I'm so much better. And if I eat something against my blood type, my body automatically know, because I've been doing it for 4 years now. Ever since the cleanse, ever since that, I've been scared. I've been scared. I don't want that to ever happen to me again, to see that blockage, because that was awful, awful. I really say to anyone that's going to do this cleanse, if you're suffering from anything and just not trying to have a detox, do the 21, because it's going to take 10 days to see what I saw. It took 10 days for that to come out of me, doing the right way, doing the juicing, using everything you need to use, the parasite mucus rebuster, the rejuvenator, and the colonics, using all of that. Don't rewrite the script. Do it just like you should do it. And if you got any kind of illnesses, I believe that 21 day would start a rejuvenation in your life.
But praise God, right? You've heard an amazing testimonial here from Valerie. And what I'll say, Valerie, is this. Your story is so inspiring and it's so touching. It moved me every time I listen to you. It moves me. And it's your passion, it's your understanding. Like you said, this literally is life saving. And
Yes.
if you're out there and if you are looking for a reset, you can go to fullbodyreset360.com. We're going to have another amazing overview of the program happening this weekend. Details will be released in the group. Once you register online, you're going to get the invitation to our Facebook group, and you can learn more about the team behind this, the medical advisory board, and the products that really support this process. And so thank you, Valerie, so much.
You're
Just
welcome.
you, and you're just glowing. You're so radiant because guess what? Those parasites are gone.